Here we have the Grim Reaper, a great bass pattern. Dumbbell eyes help get it deep into the water, and the commotion of the rattle helps attract the fish. Take 140 denier brown thread and start right behind the eye. Work down the jig section onto the shank. Roughly cover as much of the shank as the jig section. Work back up to the eye and finish with your thread in the crux. Grab a pair of dumbbell eyes and attach them to the hook right at the crux. Once your eyes are secure, end with your thread at the rear of your base. Apply a liberal amount of UV epoxy covering the eyes and expose thread in the crux up to the head on both sides. Now take your UV light and seal your epoxy. After you have sealed your eyes, it is time to attach your rattle. Attach the rattle behind the lead eyes directly onto the bare shank. Make a few tight wraps at this front position, then wrap to the rear position and take a few more wraps. Now wrap forward and back, tightly securing the rattle. Once the rattle is secure, take open spiral wraps up the shank into the bend until you are even with the horizontal center of the rattle. Open spiral wrap back down and on to the front of the rattle. Take your cami tail. I have a thick tail that tapers to a small rectangle. I slit the thin rectangle in half and tie onto the top of the rattle. Wrap the thread back down to the rear of the rattle. Now skip the thread onto the shank from the rattle and around the tail. The open spiral wrap should help hold the thread. If done properly, you will have created a ramp. Wrap the thread to the rear thread point, then back to the skip point. Turn the hook right side up and tie in the polar chenille. Wrap to the rearward point and back to the skip point. Now turn the hook upside down and use your favorite cement to protect the open wraps around the rattle and the tail. Turn the hook right side up. Skip the thread back onto the rattle. Wrap up the fly and end between the rattle and the eyes. Begin wrapping your chenille forward, palmering the material as you go. After about 24 wraps, your chenille should end right where your thread stops. Tie off your chenille and snip it close. Take a few extra wraps to make sure you secure it tightly onto the shank. Add a bundle of silly legs to the fly under the last wrap of thread between the rattle and the eyes. Measure the two ends and leave the end over the body slightly longer. Take 2 loose wraps over the silly legs. Then snip the end over the body off close to the tie-in point. Use your fingernail to spread the legs over the top of the fly. Finish by making several type wraps. Turn the fly over and do the same to the opposite side of the fly. This will give your skirt a 360-degree look. Bring the thread forward of the legs, take a few wraps, then do 2 5-turn whip finishes and cut the thread close. You are almost complete with this fly. Remove it from the vise and even out both sets of legs, trimming just a little bit off of each end. Once you have finished evening out the legs, hold the head of the fly in one hand and use the other hand to tease the legs around to ensure you have 360-degree coverage with your skirt. And that's the Grim Reaper. You can use different color variations for this fun and exciting pattern.